Mission Log Live is brought to you by Eagle Moss, Hero Collector, and their collection of exclusive Star Trek visual reference books and other great titles and gifts waiting for you at herocollector.com/books. Use the promo code MISSION10 at checkout for 10% off all books and graphic novels. Unifying all those things that need to be unified, even if it takes 3 times. It's 7 p.m. Pacific on a Monday night. That means it's time for Mission Log Live. I'm John Champion.
And I'm Holly Amos, going on a trip to a place that's Vulcan by any other name. It's time to talk about Season 3 of Star Trek Discovery, Episode 7, Unification Part 3. You guys, it's completely in another series. It's so exciting. Oh, we could discuss any other numbers you guys want to discuss. We've got them all, but most important numbers are the ones you dial us at, 669-900-6833. Then you enter the meeting code and password. Of course, you can also use the one-tap function from your smartphone, or better yet, click on the Zoom meeting so we can see your face.
That would be nice, right? So tonight, we are a step closer to solving the mystery of the burn. If only those Vulcans and Romulans would cooperate. Let us know what you thought of this week's discovery. Do what Holly said. Click, dial, tap. You know the drill. Welcome to the show, Holly. Good to see you. You just alone having this be the third part of a story sequence that started way back in Next Gen.
In 1991. It's so exciting.
Yes. That's so cool. Right?
Yeah. Actually, you know what? We're about to hit another weird milestone. I guess it's not weird. Another milestone. We're about to hit 800 episodes. We're going to hit 800 episodes for the entire franchise on New Year's Eve.
Are we really? Okay, so that'll be 800 episodes of TV, and then you have
including the animated series. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, and then you add on the movies for however number of hours, like 26 hours.
Oh God, I'd have to do the math.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah. But that's so cool. Yeah, I'm really glad. And we'll get into when we talk about the show tonight. Maybe if we get to our notes, I don't know. I'm relying on our listeners to really fill in all the blanks here and tell us what you thought. But definitely I have some notes about how they have tied in certain elements, because I feel like this is an episode that, to me, did it in a way that I wanted to see. There are many times that I call out New Trek for just cramming in references.
Right.
But then when I see something like this, it makes me really happy. Like, oh, wow, they actually did something clever to honor a previous story or make it feel natural, like it belonged there, instead of just beating you over the head with a reference.
Right. I mean, I don't disagree with you. I think that, there's a time and a place for kind of like the blatant references. And I think the time and the place for that is Lower Decks.
Yes.
Because they do it with, a sense of humor.
Right.
I'm really glad that the way that they've sort of tied this into the first 2 episodes from TNG. It didn't feel like disrespectful. It didn't feel forced, at least to me.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. And I would love to know if our listeners agree with you or with me or have other things to chime in about. Let's say hi to some of them right now. There's Carlos. Carlos, already saying, absolute candor, John. Yes, that is my absolute candor about this. And, I've definitely not been shy about calling out other modern Star Trek when it doesn't quite ring true to me. Let's see. There's Evelyn saying, hi, John. Hi, Holly. Hi, everyone else. There's Scott Palm saying, he uses right off the bat, it is so, there's about 15 O's there. So wonderful to see Leonard Nimoy. Ugh. And we will definitely talk about that.
So many feels.
Oh, yeah. There's Alan. There's Rhonda. There's Barry. Barry says, it must be said, burn, baby, burn, Disco Inferno. Barry, I don't know if I agree that it must be said, but you just did anyway. So we'll accept it. It is acceptable. Let's see. There's Chris. There's Douglas. Douglas saying hi to Tracy, because there's Tracy Coco. What up, Lieutenant J? There's Alan. There is Paul saying hi, Holly and John. There is Jane. Jane saying good evening from Bethlehem. And that would be Bethlehem, New Hampshire, not.
I was where?
I know. But I think the farthest that always goes to Narda, who is down under. So welcome to the show, Narda. And let's see. There's Dominic. There's Bob. Bob Amos.
Hi, Dad.
That had to get that in. And there's other Paul, and so many of you. So glad to see you. And do pick up the phone or click on the Zoom meeting link. And can't wait to hear what you all said. I think there was a lot of very immediate kind of internet reaction to this. And now that we've had a few days to process it, very curious to see where we land. Hey, before we get into the show and before we get to the poll, just a couple of programming notes. So next week, which will be this week, next week on Mission Log Live, that's you and Norman coming back to do Disco Season 3, Episode 8, The Sanctuary.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with Sanctuary from Logan's Run, where you die when you're 30. And then this week on Mission Log, regular Mission Log, we are back after our Thanksgiving break. We will resume with DS9 with Ferengi love songs.
Yeah, Ferengi episodes are great.
Do you really? Okay. Listen to this week's show.
No, they're ridiculous. I love them.
Okay. All right, we'll talk. And then finally, little note, tonight is the last night to enter to win a Star Trek lapel pin. Here, let me see if I can show this off. There we go. Star Trek lapel pin from our friends at cufflinksinc.com. We have a link pinned at the top of our Twitter page and our Facebook page. So just go there, like it, and tag a friend, and then we will pick 5 random winners from both places. And then the folks at cufflinksinc.com will be sending those lucky people their very own lapel pin, like this one, or maybe like the other one, maybe like the TNG Arrow one. You get that for free. And by the way, while you're there at cufflinksinc.com, I didn't get to wear these tonight because I didn't wear a shirt with French cuffs, but I really dig these, the Starfleet Delta cufflinks. You can't see too well there, but they have kind of like a matte finish on them, and then the back has a tiny little delta on it, and they're just so cool, and they come in this neat magnetic box. So thank you to the folks over there for sending these, and then for hooking all of you up with a free lapel pin if you are so lucky. So Holly, before we get to the recap and our discussion, if you would please catch us up on the poll questions.
Yeah. Last week we asked you guys, what would you buy from the salvage yard on Hun Hao? There was 105 votes. 22% of you said that you would buy a self-sealing stem bolt. That's impressive considering we still don't know what it does. Com badge, 17%.
It seals by itself.
Oh,
Holly.
well, sure. Okay. Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. You should work for NASA.
Okay.
Com badge, 17%. A 24th century phaser only got 12%. I am offended because that's what I voted for.
Really? Okay. All right.
Yeah. A boomerang phaser. Yeah. They're so sleek. Okay. And Miranda class Starship by far got the most votes with 49%.
That's what I want. It's just such a cool design.
But they're so old.
Yeah, it's classic. It's not old. It's classic.
The phaser's old too, but it's such a little thing that you would have to fix, and you have to redo a whole starship.
That's true. Yeah. All right.
I'm thinking too deeply. So this week we asked who should become the permanent first officer on the Discovery. Obviously, Tilly is acting. So far, we have 44 votes. Tilly, to be permanent, she's got 41% of the votes right now. Nilsson's got 21. O's got 27%, and poor Reese only has 11.
How do you feel about that? Who would be your choice?
I really wanted Tilly just for the sake of the fact that I really enjoy her as a character. I don't know if she'd be the most appropriate. I actually think that Nilsson should be, because Nilsson was third in command.
Yeah, true.
So
see, I feel like, this is a very writery kind of thing where they take Tilly and they go okay, there's a lot to work with here because we can see her grow into the role and really, overcome some of her obstacles and really excel, and we'll just see so much growth from that character. But I don't think she's necessarily the most appropriate one outside of that logic. Well, I like OO. I think
I like OO
a lot of
too.
Cool stuff. Yeah.
But she's so good at what she does now.
Yeah.
You'd be taking away from that. I feel like that's the only reason why I just think Nilsson would be best. We've seen her in command. We see her evacuating the captain's chairs Saru walks onto. She's done it before.
Yeah.
How do you think? How do you think Harry Kim would feel about Tilly being second in command?
He is right now screaming into the void. That is.
Are you
kidding me? Yep. Poor Harry Kim. By the way, a lot of people agreeing here. Alan saying, give Nilsson a real job. Paul Wright saying, Nilsson, she's next in line. And then let's see, who else? Wait. And then David saying, do you guys think Tilly being acting first officer is a plot device? Well, yeah. I mean, look, we don't know really where we're going to land with this. I just feel like it's an opportunity to take the character and move the character along. I don't think this is necessarily the right decision, like within the internal logic of the show. So I don't know if we're going to actually wind up there. I do feel like it's a very kind of plot-driven thing. So yeah, we'll see. And by the way, Dave Taylor says, and I would totally agree, is like, hey, if Kirk can go from cadet to captain in an afternoon, why not Tilly? So sure. Your logic is sound there too.
I mean, there's less of a federation to approve it, I guess.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. And then Rick says Nilsson is probably the least developed bridge officer so far. I would
from a character standpoint, yeah. But I mean, from rank, like she's taken the con before. So has Reese, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think he has. Yeah. By the way, Douglas says Nilsson looks too much like Ariam to be trusted as number one.
Okay.
Clever. All right, folks. Well, lots of ideas to talk about there. Lots of other ideas brought up in the episode. So now is the time to pick up the phone or tap on the one tap from your smartphone, the thing, the link, the Zoom, the click. You know what to do. Do all of that while I ramble on about the recap, and we'll see you in a minute, okay? Here we go. Unification 3. It's still a tough time for Michael Burnham, demoted, definitely not fitting in with the crew or the expectations of Starfleet in the 32nd century. She's having to reconsider who she is here, but at least she's got the comfort of a good book. And by that, we mean book. The guy. We're not sure what she's reading, but these two are definitely getting to know each other cover to cover.
Oh my God.
May seem like a novel idea, but he's definitely her type. All right, I'll stop with the book jokes until we get to a new chapter. With Burnham acting as lowly science officer, Tilly has been offered the role of first officer. But she's going to need some time to see if that's really the best fit for her. The work carries on, though. She and Burnham narrow down at least one more missing piece of the mystery of the burn. There was an experiment called SB-19, which they learned was a foray into alternate means of starship propulsion developed at the behest of the Federation. It didn't work out. And those scientists who were working on SB-19 secreted away all their data, never to be shared with anyone. Those scientists were on a planet, Nivar. Also, Nivar used to be called Vulcan. Also, they dropped out of the Federation. So the Discovery crew will have to go there. And while Burnham is still in the doghouse, she is the best chance they have of opening up diplomatic relations. She is Spock's sister, after all, and Spock, since we last saw him, became something of a legend in his time by reuniting the Vulcans and Romulans. The reception at Nivar is perfectly Vulcan, which is to say cold, aloof, and not forthcoming with any of the information the Discovery crew need. Burnham has a trump card, though. She wants to invoke the right of Takal Inket, which roughly translates to the ancient Vulcan ritual of talking this thing to death. The Vulcan president, Tarina, agrees and assembles a panel along with an advocate for Burnham, who follows the ancient Romulan ritual of absolute candor and just happens to be Burnham's mom. The inquiry begins. And the panel can't come to any sort of consensus on the first round. You've got a Vulcan who's curious, a Romulan who's curious, a hardline Vulcan who's a real stickler and wants the whole thing dismissed, and then a Romulo Vulcan who abstains. In any case, Burnham is getting no data from SB-19 right now. Round 2. After a talking to by her mother, Burnham goes back in to face her interrogators, and whoa, what is this? Her mother turns against her, pushing all those buttons about what it is she's really after, where she belongs, what her true motivations are. With advocates like this, who needs enemies? but it works. Burnham is stripped down to reveal that she has constantly worked to serve the greater good. It's who she is. It's what Starfleet is. So yes, the SB-19 data will be used with good intent. She's got at least one of them convinced, the Romulan, but all that does is create more squabbling among the group. And as Burnham sees the unity between these three break down, potentially signaling a bigger political problem, she withdraws her request. This isn't what Spock would have wanted, but Burnham will take the high road, keep searching, share her data with them, mic drop or gong drop or whatever. The quorum may have ended in disaster, but Tarina was so impressed with Burnham that she herself handed over the SB-19 data. All's well, the science will begin. Burnham will keep her job, even if it means a strain on her relationship. She's found where she belongs. Tilly will accept a new temporary job as first officer, and it looks like Saru has opened up diplomatic channels with Nivar. Baby steps anyway. The end.
Yay. Golf clap.
Thank you.
Those book puns were awful.
Oh, thank you. I do that for the greater good. That's what I do. Is I just bring you some terrible puns. Any just sort of immediate thoughts on the episode or standout moments you want to share before we get to our first caller?
The Nivar thing is wild to me. Like
what that it exists as a place with Romulans and Vulcans?
Well, no, not that. No, where the name came from is like from fanzines in the 60s.
Yeah, that's pretty rad.
Yes, it's rad that I mean, it's already been used, right? So there was an Enterprise. In Enterprise, there was a ship named the Nivar. But a linguist who was a fan, you know this, for those of you who might not know, a linguist who was a fan, had fanzines in the 60s. Dorothy Jones?
Yeah, well, and Jacqueline Lichtenberg contributed
right.
to
yeah.
So,
I have her name right here in my notes. I'm ridiculous. T negative and Spockanelia. Spockanelia stuff is like, they're in archives. Like I've seen them in official archives.
Yeah.
So I've looked through them. They're pretty wild. I am beside myself that they are using stuff that fans came up with in the 60s. It's so nice of them. So
see, and that's the kind of like universe building that I really appreciate, because I feel like it's the easy way out to just go like, here's Spock. And I don't mean specifically in this episode, because I will get to that. I love the way that they used Nimoy in this. But when you spend most of the second season and you kept teasing it in the first season, like Burnham's, she was raised alongside Spock. Sareka's her adoptive father. It's like, that's the easiest thing to do to sort of telegraph to a Star Trek fan, look how Star Trek this is. Right. What I love is when you do something that's a little more of a deep dive, a little more clever, even like going back to Enterprise, just the idea of having the Vulcan city look like the one from the animated series.
Right.
You didn't have to beat anybody over the head with it. You could just say like, look, we've watched this too. We like this idea. We're just going to leave this here for all of you, you know? So when you do something like this and you pull it right out of a fanzine, that's...
Yeah, and I mean, I also think that... I want to think that part of the reason why they chose it was because its meaning, which it basically means two forms. And because the woman that coined this phrase, like she also, again, was a linguist, and so she kind of fleshed out a Vulcan language. And so it means two form, in which I wrote it down. A subject was examined from two different viewpoints, or in terms of it having two different aspects or natures. And the meaning of it kind of got me thinking about specifically our country's current state of affairs, where we have like two very different sides of things. In terms of people's opinions, and I feel like it was pretty blatant commentary, but maybe I'm just.
No, I think that's a really good point. I mean, look, good science fiction and good Star Trek definitely reflects the time that it's in. And I think that's a very obvious thing, probably very well thought out, saying, here we have two opposing cultures who have been essentially enemies for hundreds of years. How do we give them a new beginning and sort of honor the idea that we're creating this uneasy alliance?
Right.
That's Go ahead.
They took it a little bit further with the Quat Malat, which is from Picard.
Yeah.
Which it's so exciting that they're tying that into. I love that continuity.
Yeah.
But Tarina mentions that part of what the Quat Malat does at that point in time, which again, we're in the future, is that they allow a healthy discourse on the planet. And I was like, I'm jealous. We don't really have that.
No, I do love that. And again, that's another piece of continuity that I love how they did it. Because with any lesser of a writer, unfortunately, Picard was just on not that many months ago, right. But with any lesser writer, it would have been like, yes, I studied the Quat Malat because there was once a great teacher named Elnor, and he worked with a great person named Picard. And that would have been
it was completely like the most that they did was, she was mentioned that she was in the Quat Malat, and then what she was wearing, and she has the sword.
The sword, yes. Yeah.
Which is he's only pronounced it once in the show. It's a Tan Quolang.
You're good.
New words.
I know. Let's go to our first caller. So we're going to welcome to the show, Chris. Chris, how you doing tonight?
Where is he today?
Where are you, Chris?
Hey, guys.
Hey, there he is. I see you.
Good.
Oh, no.
He's robot-y today.
Yeah. You're trapped in some sort of a temporal distortion, I think.
There we go. This is... I is down here in LA, and so I'm using my data, which is on my phone, hence the shaky cam and the effect. But no, this is a painting that's in a restaurant, I believe, called Lucky Penny in the Palms in Las Vegas. I went there one of the times I was at STLV. It's like a diner type thing, and so it's like that woman at like a diner doing her thing. Cool. So that's where I am tonight. Very nice.
Nice.
Let's see. Regards this week episode. I liked it. I liked it in the way that it sort of softened me on last week. Because last week I was, as you may recall, somewhat ill at ease with Michael's sort of whole decision. And now I see this is really sort of the resolution of that. I think last week and this week are really kind of an unofficial two-parter. And the reason that you have to have Michael do something as brash and crazy as like blatantly ignore the rules last week is so that you get to have a big payoff this week. You can't have this sort of trial scene if her angst is like over a little tiny, I don't want to, whatever. You have to have her go all the way to the line and over in order to have this swing pendulum back the other way just as big. So I really like that, the character work that we did with Michael this week and how it sort of eased and softened her from last week.
What do you make of the idea? Because I see this complaint online, and I don't think it's necessarily wrong, but I really like how you just sort of put it into context. The idea that, Michael Burnham was introduced as a character who broke rank, disagreed with her captain, basically caused them to get into a war, caused the death of her captain. And, do we allow a character like multiple times to be insubordinate? Do we allow her to keep coming back and essentially doing the same thing, which is going rogue at every opportunity? Does this play as realistic to you? Do we forgive it because we do get a payoff here? Is it easier or more difficult to swallow because we already set up the character that way?
I think before this season, I would have said it's starting to kind of get old, but that's her one shtick is that she's told no and she does it anyway. And I like that this season, we've sort of given her an out with Book in her year of doing space, Indiana Jones, ecosystem, whatever. And that like she has a reason to want to not necessarily follow the rules because she's experienced something different. Whereas in prior seasons, it seemed she was doing it just because she felt like it out of not spite, but like, well, you told me no, so I'm going to do it now. I'm going to do it harder. So I like that we have a sort of character, narrative reason as to why she wants to go this other way. and that we get to sort of see her begin to figure out how can I meld these two things that I think are both equally important to her. I don't think she's ever going to totally abandon Starfleet, but she obviously cares very much about Book and his sort of transworm crusade. So I like that we're sort of giving her that other arm, or whatever you want to call it.
Transform Crusade is a great way to put it.
Yeah, well, and that's a new band name, so good job on that. So, yeah, and Lord knows we've never in Star Trek seen another character of authority who has gone rogue and been insubordinate and been told no and done it anyway. We've never seen that before. That never happens on Star Trek since 1966. Yeah, and then Dave says, John, did you watch? I don't know if he's talking to me or another John here, but John, did you watch TNG? The number of court-martial events is multitude. Yes, absolutely. And I'm being facetious there. It's interesting to me that people will call that out on this show, and I think that this show suffers from having short seasons, and short seasons that are telling one story, So when the big catalyst for a lot of those events that happen within those stories happens to be a main character being insubordinate, then it feels like it's repetitive. It feels like they're just doing the same thing because they go, oh, that's what Michael Burnham does. Something that I feel like in this episode in particular was a big turning point, and why I appreciated this one more on a rewatch than I did the first time around, was that scene, the second scene in the quorum, it was a moment to not just have Star Trek preach at us about these are the ideals. These are the principles that Starfleet thinks are important. It wasn't just about that. It was about like, how and why do you as an individual commit to those ideas? And then how do you act that out? So it's one thing to just be able to say like, yeah, Starfleet has ideals, and we respect things like unity and cultural diversity, et cetera. But they stripped all of that away and they just made it personal about Michael. And I think that Michael represents a lot of people in Starfleet to go like, oh yeah, I signed up for this, but I had a reason to sign up for this. And I will behave at my best to make sure that I act like those ideals. So that's definitely what I took away from this episode. Josh here saying, wait, has there been an episode where Burnham doesn't cry? Does it matter?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably not been very many episodes in which Tilly doesn't cry either, but yeah. I really enjoy the characters showing emotion and being vulnerable. And this is something that we've talked about through this third season, because there's even something in this episode that is, vulnerability. It's when, Gabrielle revealed that there was another audience that Burnham was playing to, and that ended up being the president, Tarina. Yes. And yes. Tarina only decided after that she became truthful and vulnerable that she was trustworthy, and gave her the data that she was looking for on SB19. And I think that this concept of like a stiff upper lip, I'm not down. I'm not down with it. I don't think that characters being emotional, showing emotion, being vulnerable, I don't think that's bad. I think that's great.
There's something that, speaking of characters being emotional, I do think that, what we're missing here is several hundred years of Vulcan Romulan evolution. Their cultural, their social evolution. So there's a lot of mingling there. And, I love that the president just flipped that around on Saru about the needs of the many outweighing the needs of the few. She was like, yeah, we ran out of time for aphorisms. We just... That didn't work anymore, given the reality of the situation. So I feel like her position, and we just got a taste of it here, but that's informed by so much history that's gone on there. So her reactions are probably going to be different from a guy like Spock or Sarek or someone else. And as far as Burnham, I think the other thing that maybe we're forgetting here is that, she spent a year thinking that she was never going to see her crew again.
There's so much that we don't know.
Yeah.
There's so much that we don't know about her character that, by the way, that Sonequa does know. She's had conversations with the writers about the backstory and like the year that is unseen to us. So she knows things that we don't. And we know basically the same amount of information as the rest of the crew, right? So I'm sure that there are decisions that she's making, reasons that she's acting the way that she is, that have a lot to do with the year that she was by herself in the future.
Yeah.
And basically had one confidant, Book, and maybe the cat.
Right. So you can definitely understand their relationship, though, because of that. Douglas makes an interesting comment here that I'll throw out to both of you. He says, while they understand how it can be important to show vulnerability, but when it's used too often, it can end up feeling cheapened, at least to me. I'm for it, but it's starting to feel a bit less earned. I don't know. I don't mean to complain, like it needs to be earned, blah, I don't know. So, Douglas, I hear you. And I feel like this is probably a conversation that a lot of Star Trek fans are having with themselves and with their fellow Star Trek fan friends. It feels genuine to you if you feel like it's earned. To me, I kind of have to keep coming back to this idea that there is a whole year of history that we simply don't know. And then just being thrown right back into this and saying like, oh yeah, you're an officer now. Oh yeah, here's how you behave now, how that's got to throw her off her game. Then you throw her mother back into the mix. I
think her mother is the only part of the show of this episode that I was like, well, that's a little bit convenient.
Oh, totally. Yeah. But I was glad to see her though. I'm glad that we gave her a story.
Having her be a member of the Quat-Malat and like she was rescued by them and that whole backstory, like that's super interesting. And absolutely, like, when she beamed aboard and had her veil, like I did not expect it to be Gabrielle. So I was like, oh, but then I was like, well, who else would it have been?
Right.
Like in the future, everybody that she knows is either Book or is on the ship. So like, who else could it have been?
Right. Exactly.
But yeah, I get people, being tired of all the crying, but I never felt like to use their words. I never felt like it was unearned because every time someone gets emotional, I'm like, me too.
Right. Now, we'll see, that's the thing now. Speaking of the viewers, like Rick, echoing what you're saying, before this season, I think Star Trek made me cry maybe a half dozen times. I don't think I've made it through an episode this year. I
didn't even make it through the first 10 minutes because they brought in Leonard and I was just like a blubbering mess.
Well, all right, so let's talk about that because that is such an important thing for this episode. For you, Chris, talk to us here. Let's pick this apart with using Leonard Nimoy's Spock from Unification in this. What did you think of it?
Yeah, I like this on a couple levels. I like just the general idea of taking a plot thread from 1980 whatever and being like, yes, this still matters 30 or 40 years later. I think that's really cool. I also think this is like the right amount of sort of like world building connectivity that the show needs and can now use being set in the future. Like we know that she is Spock's sister, but just to have like a little moment, just to have, a little clip or, just sort of passing, like, again, it doesn't beat you over the head with it. It's like, especially for people like us, the viewers, like we know what that scene is from and we have a great emotional attachment to Leonard beyond just that moment. And so I think it's a nice little, like, we understand where we're coming from and we're trying to honor that as we go forward for the show. So I thought it was really sweet. I expected there to be a photo. I did not expect the clip, so I was pleasantly surprised by audio. But no, I really liked it. That was a sweet moment with her.
Yeah, and it wasn't, what I appreciated about it wasn't a scene. I mean, obviously the first two Unification episodes were like a big deal because it was the 25th anniversary of the franchise. Is that right? Did I do that math right? Yeah. I was like, it's some anniversary. And it was right after Gene died, actually. I mean, they shot it before he died, but it aired after. But what I appreciated with the clip that they used is that it was relevant, but it wasn't a clip of Spock or Leonard that anybody has like ever fixated on in terms of characterization. Like, it's not one of his like most famous phrases or anything like that. Like, it's completely relevant, but it's not something that people like remember him by. But they're also like to your guys's comments about not being beat over the head with it. There's a lot of stuff that they're interjecting, but they're not outright stating, like the fact that Romulans live on the planet Vulcan. I mean, obviously that's reunification, but Romulus is also gone.
Yeah,
like
right.
It's been gone.
Right.
And they don't mention that explicitly, but we know that from Star Trek 2009 and then Picard, because they played off it too. So, but they don't explicitly say it, which I kind of appreciated, that they weren't just, Romulus is gone because it was destroyed by her. So I liked that too. But there was one comment in it where they said, you invoke Ambassador Spock, who left the Federation behind, and they act like he willingly left. And I was like, dude got sucked into a black hole. Like, calm down. Yeah. He was trying to save Romulus.
Right.
Anyways.
What was that, Chris?
Oh no, but yeah, it's funny that wasn't he on his way somewhere? It's not like we counted him missing. We were like, oh no, he clearly just went AWOL. We didn't just assume that, something bad befell him. He's like, no, he left. He clearly left, despite the fact that he was on his way to a conference or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. And also to everybody's point here, Carlos points out, and it's not the Kelvin universe. There's no Vulcan planet there. There is no Vulcan planet in the Kelvin timeline, but there is here. So we're definitely firmly establishing that moment.
We're in the prime timeline, guys.
The kickoff moment of splitting the timeline.
What do we think happened to Remus? Like, they got destroyed too, right?
Did they?
Yeah, presumably they're in the same star system. Why wouldn't they have been during that supernova?
Yeah.
Anyways, that was a question that raised in my mind today. I was like, presumably they're gone too.
Could be a lot of.
It's just like a moon.
Yeah.
Well, they're like a twin planet, although Remus is a little bit bigger. But yeah, they're in the same star system. I think that there's probably not as many Remans on board ships that were not like bound to the planet. So I feel like they might be completely extinct. Whereas like Romulans, there was enough of them off world when the supernova. I mean, Nero's one of them, even though he got sucked into the past. Right. There was enough of them to, they didn't have a planet to go back to, and they were rejoined with the Vulcan. So we're going to go back to Vulcan, and we're going to rename it, and it's going to be called Navarre. That's cool.
Yes.
Navarre is a cool name for it. Good job, you writers.
Yes. And by the way, one thing that I will say here about the Spock hologram is that I'm usually not a fan. It definitely takes me out of things when a TV show will reference something that happened in the past of that TV show and they just roll the clip, just roll the footage. Like you can kind of get away with it in the Menagerie because the events of the cage, you're saying like, okay, well, this is a transmission from the Telosians. They're sort of creating this for you to see on the Enterprise. It's not just like somebody was standing behind Pike all the time with a camera capturing everything that was going on. But this was a great use of the technology because you cut out the rest of the scene. You just focused on Spock. You had his face there in this sort of, hazy hologram projection. And it was almost like you could sort of buy it in universe. Sure, this was something that either some camera there was recording or something that was being picked up on Picard's comm badge or tricorder or whatever. And the computer in the 32nd century sort of piecing this together for you. So I really like the way just the technology was presented in this context to show a vintage clip of Star Trek, essentially, and not take me out of it, not make me in my head go like, wait, where is the camera? Wait, why was somebody filming this? Wait, why are there edits involved?
Does it take you out of it when you're watching during the original series movies when it basically just replays when the Enterprise is being destroyed? And you're just 100%. Like, who is filming this?
Yeah, because I'm just saying, like, who edited this? Who's filming it? Why is there another ship out there? Why didn't they beam those people off? Like, it completely takes me out of it. So,
yeah, but I mean, somebody just said in the comments that Kirsten Beyer is a master storyteller, and I just wanted to say yes, she is.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there. Hey, Chris, if you got one more comment, we'll take that. And then we got to do a little business, and then we're going to say hi to our other callers who are patiently standing by. Anything else for us tonight?
Just one more. I'm really happy for Tilly. Good for her. I don't know how long it's because of her, but potentially encounter someone who is like a higher round is going to come back. But I think Tilly's going to like basically do this as her internship, and then at the end she'll get promoted to either lieutenant junior grade or full lieutenant as kind of a reward, and we'll put somebody new in there. But I think this is still a good arc for her, and I really like the scenes that she and Doug Jones have together. They work really well together.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. All right. Well, thank you very much, Chris. Really appreciate it. And really appreciate John and Casey who are standing by. So we will get to you guys in just a moment. But before that, I want to say a quick word about our sponsor this week. Of course, you know what that means. That means the Eagle Moss Bookshop. So, Mission Log listeners, like all of you within the range of my voice, you already know about the collections of model starships from every corner of the Starship universe made by Eagle Moss Hero Collector, but you may not be as familiar with the wide and ever-expanding variety of officially authorized special edition books published by Eagle Moss and available online in the Eagle Moss shop. Now, Holly, while you're talking, I'm gonna get out the book here, and I got a special one for you this week. So
Okay.
Go ahead.
Fans who pay a visit to the exclusive Star Trek bookshop at herocollector.com/books will discover a range of definitive visual guides that go as deep into Star Trek history and canon as any books ever published, each extensively researched and developed by Eagle Moss Hero Collector under the supervision of Star Trek expert Ben Robinson. Books from the Star Trek Shipyard series present a timeline of almost every ship that has ever appeared in the Star Trek TV shows and movies, from the original series forward to Discovery and backwards to Enterprise. Some of these volumes are dedicated exclusively to Starfleet starships, while others focus on ships from other members of the Federation, including the Vulcans. Vulcans aren't in the Federation anymore. The Andorians, the Tellarites, and the Bajorans. Books in the Designing Starships series boldly go where few have gone before, deep behind the scenes into the conception, development, and detail of ships from every era. There are even volumes from the comprehensive official Star Trek graphic novel collection.
All right, so I've got my big old Star Trek Voyager, USS Voyager NCC 74656 book here from Eagle Moss, and I love how much detail, every room, every panel, design elements, and this week, I picked out before I had Chakotay's quarters just for you. We took a trip to Neelix's kitchen, and this week, yes, there is a special chapter on
the morgue.
Yeah, so the morgue on the Voyager. Because as they point out, that as good as the EMH is, sometimes some things are just beyond his abilities. So you're gonna need a morgue. And I believe it says that they can store 6 bodies indefinitely. It says they are beamed there after they are deceased. I just say keep them in the pattern buffer, because why not? And just in case you're working in there, there is a level 5 dampening field. So don't worry, you won't be contaminated with anything. But I'll have all the details here if you find yourself working on the morgue of the USS Voyager. So just one of many details to find in the big old book about the Voyager. So there is something for every Star Trek fan, as I have just pointed out. Plus, especially for friends of Mission Log Live, again, use our code MISSION10 at checkout. Get 10% off all books, not just Trek books, but all books and graphic novels there. To browse the shop, go to herocollector.com/books. Use that code MISSION10 at checkout for your 10% discount. Hey, enough of our yammering on. Calling us directly from the Trek House now, it's Casey. How are you, Casey?
Hey, can you guys hear me?
We can, yes. Perfectly well. How are you?
Woo, I'm doing good, man. I'm so glad to see you guys again. It's been a pretty stressful year, and it's been
you don't say.
Yeah. But, Holly talking about Fullerton, I'm from La Habra, and so, all these places she's talking about, Brea Mall and all this stuff, it's just hearkening back to my childhood. And this show especially, man, 29 years in the making, and I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled because, this season, so much more than any other season of Discovery, is about pursuing that dream of making enemies into friends and living up to Starfleet ideals. And especially, oh my God, this year on this weirdly unified year we've all been sharing on the planet Earth, where we're all going through this global thing together. It's astonishing. So I was thrilled. I was thrilled to know in this fictional universe that I'm deeply involved in, that it might take a 1,000 years or less, considerably less, before it happens. But the Vulcans and the Romulans, those crazy kids getting back together. So it makes me really happy.
All they needed was a good teacher and good motivation.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
And it's also weird that it's a strange symmetry between the J.J. Abrams universe and this universe, where they just diverge. Knowing that Spock has that universe has Spock, but they don't have a Vulcan planet. But our universe does have a Vulcan, and now it's Ni'Var, old school. And that's, I don't know. I love the references
to the Kelvin films too. I know that a lot of fans had hold issue with the Kelvin films when they were being released, but
there are issues. The Laurentian system, that's a big issue with me from the Star Trek, the first of the three.
The Kelvin universe.
Yeah. All the ships are gone. All the ships are gone in the entire Starfleet, except for one, the Enterprise. They're all in the Laurentian system, and that's all we're going to say about it. This series is the first time we actually have an excuse that one starship is the only starship in the quadrant that can make it, because all the other ones are slow as hell.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's fantastic. Other than they're all somewhere else. We're not gonna talk about that.
There wasn't just. I have to mention this before we run out of time, though, is the USS Yelchin comment. Mention.
Anton.
Yeah.
The feels. So much. And then the Nog thing too, Yeah,
that got me too. I was actually friends with both of those actors, so I'm happy that they've been kind of commemorated.
Oh man. But there's so many mysteries. I don't know how many episodes this season's going to have, but they got a lot of stuff to wrap up, unless they're trying to push it on to the next season.
We're at 13 this season?
Yeah, 13 this season, and we're just on 7 now, so we got 6 more. And honestly, I find myself kind of feeling this in this season the way that I have before, which is I'm less interested in the big mystery. And I know that's kind of like how you sell a show now, is just like, well, this season it's all about the burn and what happened to create the burn. And I know that's the thread that's supposed to carry us through, but I just feel like I'm less interested in that than I am in all the character stuff and just what's happening kind of peripherally to all
I do feel like they're doing a good job of having that, what you were calling a thread, that is like the ongoing mystery that they're trying to solve in the serialization. But they've also been really good about telling condensed bottle episode type things.
Yes.
The Seed Ship was a whole contained little episode. This was a contained episode. Going to Hun Hao was a contained episode. Even though they do have this silver lining of what we're trying to figure out, I do think that they're doing a really good job of having almost standalone stories. Yeah.
Well, and I'm definitely... Oh, go ahead, Casey.
Oh, I was going to say, do you guys think it's weird that everyone's hung up on this thing that happened 120 years ago? I feel like I get our
now,
heroes.
Are you saying that everybody, or are you saying Michael?
Our heroes, and Michael had a lot. I do love the mystery of everything she went through, including how she grew that hair so quickly in 1 year. That's astonishing. But I don't know. It's just, Michael,
it's just, I get great hair.
It's great. Yeah. It's they did it on Voyager. 7 of 9 had a full head of locks. One episode later, it's incredible. But yeah, it's kind of weird to me. Like, I feel like people are like, yeah, that was really tragic, but we moved on. That was like 120 years ago, man.
Well, I mean, I think that there's a reason, and maybe it's in the year that we didn't see that there's a reason why Michael is obsessed with this. She is convinced that without understanding what the cause of the burn was, that the Federation can never recover to the level that they were at. In terms of, having, how many worlds were they down to? Like 38 or something, down from like 300 something. Like, there has to be a reason why. It can't just be like she's obsessed for the sake of being obsessed. There has to be a reason that we might not know about.
Well, and the whole thing with the Red Angel suit, that just kind of got sucked up into the wormhole. So that's what I'm wondering, if there's some kind of timey-wimey thing that's going on that caused that ruckus. Because they made a point of, saying that things go places unexpectedly. And they made a point of bringing up the Red Angel suit when they were debriefing Burnham and everything. So I don't know, that and the whole like mystery tune, right. And the wackiness with Gray and the weird fugues that Giorgio's happening. There's a lot going on.
But don't you feel like there was a lot of crazy stuff happening in the last season, and they're kind of all like all of these things, you feel like you're being pulled in several different directions in terms of like characterization and like weird things that are going on. But don't you feel like they brought it together pretty well at the end? I feel like they tied it together. So like I have no like qualms with what's going on, even though I'm like, there's so many things going on. True. But I also have faith that the writers know it. Like, they're not just aimlessly wandering around giving us.
Oh no. As soon as I knew Kirsten Bear was on there, I was sold, because I'm a nut for all the novels and the whole continuity. I got this. Yeah, it's nuts. But, no, I have faith in them, especially since the pacing of this season is on point. Last season was too much. It was like there's a lot of pew 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 going on.
There's not there's been entire episodes this season that don't have any like battles. Although when they've had battles, I mean, books ship pulling apart and coming back together. And
I love that thing. I don't know why it does. Yeah. I don't know why it does what it does, but I love it. And Grudge, I'm so happy Grudge got more cameos in this.
What is going on with Grudge?
She's a queen. That's all you need to know.
There is something going on. That look that Book gives her at the end of this episode, I was like, what is happening?
She's the queen of Kate, the planet Kate, vacations. They worship her.
I would hope so. I mean, look, I just wonder, like, at the end of this season, what is it that I will take away from it? What is it that I'll remember and hang on to? And will it be a reveal about the cat? Will it be a reveal about the burn? Will it be, something like that? And I go like, no, what I'm really into right now is getting to know Saru's command style. Like, to me, that in this episode, that was so cool to just really get a sense for him with this, like, gentle but wise approach that he has. And because we've seen different types of captains. We've seen the cowboy diplomacy of Kirk. We've seen this sort of like elder statesman in Picard. And Pike they really played with, and they really created a character that's got some conflict and some burnout and trying to find his own motivation. But Saru just has this sort of like elegance in the role that we haven't really seen in a captain. Those are the things that, to me, I'm going to walk away from this season and go, oh, wow, that was the season where this character became this. Not necessarily this is the season where I learned what the cat is. Although I really want to know what the cat is. I will tell you that right now.
And just getting to see Doug Jones actually act, like how instead of just doing physical stuff.
I thought about that too. I was like, is this the most that he's like had like a speaking role?
Like ever. Yeah. It's wonderful.
Thank goodness.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Well, hey, Casey, thank you so much for your comments. We got one more caller to talk to, and I hope we see you again soon on the show, okay?
Thank you.
All right. Take care. Bye. Have a great night. All right, and then rounding out the conversation tonight, welcome back to the show, John Arminio. How you doing, sir?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing all right.
Such good audio every time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
that. So welcome, and what is on your mind tonight?
I am hoping we get more with the Vulcans and the Romulans and how their society is functioning right now. Star Trek has this reputation of representing the planets as monocultures, but I think what's made the Vulcans so interesting throughout their appearances in Star Trek is that from Amok time, we've seen a real conflict between power hungry ladder climbers and traditionalists and hardliners and more progressive voices and very bad dads and good moms. We see that reflected in the tribunal in this episode and the conflict between the Vulcans and the Romulan representatives. And so I'm just very interested in how that dynamic plays out and how maybe alliances in that society might play out, but in between the different races on Navarre.
I really wish right now to share with you both my favorite line from the episode, and I apologize because I forget the character's name. He was the Romulan in the quorum. Of course, you have the Romulan, the Vulcan, and the Romulo-Vulcan. But the Romulan says to the Vulcan, Vulcans will choose whatever serves them best and insist it is only logical. Hell yeah, Romulan, They will. Absolutely. Those writers have been listening to Mission Log because that is something that we have said over and over and over. Just like a Klingon will shout honor, no matter what it is, the Vulcan will climb that ladder. They will screw you over, and they say, "Yeah, it's logic. That's just that's what it does." Alan in the chat says Vulcans like two things: logic and pageantry. You are not wrong, Alan. You're not wrong.
I feel like Vulcans and Bajorans are pretty all of their
cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, they have so many rituals and holidays. I mean, Bajorans have holidays and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, going through that whole thing where they set everything up just to do this, it was like a court thing. It was almost like a courthouse situation. But yeah, setting all of that up, I'm like, is this really all necessary? You're literally just talking. Do we need all this pageantry? Yeah, well, they're Vulcans.
And they do have tiki torches throughout.
That's what I'm talking about. And they just appeared from, programmable matter.
Okay, so hopefully that's what they were, because it would say open flame on a set is never a good idea.
No, they just appear, and I was like, oh, programmable. Everything is programmable matter. Maybe I'm programmable matter.
Pretty sure you are. Yeah. What else, John? Any other thoughts on the episode?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it was interesting that it seemed like the whole purpose of that ceremony was to elicit an emotional reaction out of Burnham and to finally get at her, bare soul, and to strip away the logic from her. And I think that's an interesting sort of end goal for a Vulcan ceremony. It's hard for me to take Burnham at face value at this point, because every time she cries, I don't know, or every time she has an emotional reaction, I don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah. Do you think that she's using it to manipulate?
I don't know.
Okay.
I can't get a handle on her motivations at all. But I think at least here, with the Federation's existence on the line and her mother telling her she's lying to herself, I think I finally got a believable emotional reaction out of her, and that finally convinced the Vulcan president to be like, "Okay, I believe you. We'll give you this data."
It's almost like a little bit reminiscent of young Spock getting bullied at school, or fast forward then to Kolinar, where again it's this emotional purging. You got to get all of the stuff out before you can get to the truth of the matter. And by the way, speaking of Kolinar, do believe it was the same gong tone that we heard in that just took me right back to those scenes in Motion Picture.
I'm just waiting for the little shakers from the
little shaker things. Yeah. I want those. Yeah.
Well, when was the last time we saw those? I'd like to see those make an appearance.
Too long ago.
I certainly can understand. Burnham has probably kept every emotion she experienced bottled up inside of her for the last year. And I think we see that played out in the fact that all of a sudden she's attracted to Book now. Even though it seemed like she lived on his spaceship for most of the time.
She said she had her own ship.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, I was kind of kicking that one around a little bit in my head too, and thinking like, is it sudden or is it not sudden? She's been there for a year. They've known each other. They've gotten to know each other for that long. Surely just the natural human need to have somebody with you, to have some bonding when you have no idea if anybody else that you know is ever going to show up again.
Yeah.
Then I get it that they would have this bond. Why they waited until this particular reveal to actually get them together, little, serve the dramatic purpose.
I mean, she also happened to bond with like the first guy that she hit on the way out of the wormhole.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
You didn't meet anybody better in the year? Like you didn't meet anybody else that struck your fancy? Just the guy that you hit on the way out?
Look, when it's Andorians and big dumb Orions,
that's fair.
But
he's a handsome dude.
Heart.
He's got an adorable pet and a cool pad. I mean,
and he's got a great heart, saving all those animals. I mean, he's got it all. But that is the 32nd century meet cute. Is like I slammed into your spaceship in my Red Angel time travel suit. Hallmark movie, that's how it happens. We're up against the clock, John, but any final thoughts on tonight's episode before we say goodnight?
I just have to agree that I'm just so excited to see Doug Jones get to be the leader in this series. Like every scene he's in, I'm just excited. I mean, even just his walk
is
just so alien, but so believable that a living 7-foot creature would move that way. Just he's doing things that I've never seen an actor do with or without prosthetics.
I really have to wonder, he's so well fleshed out now, and I really am taken by the tenor of this type of captain, because it's not something that we've seen before. I really wonder if you go back to the beginning and the development of the show in season 1, who had it in their heads to say, you know what, this guy, this character is who needs to become captain. This is the character we need to follow. And this is what that character will be like as we see them on their journey. Because it just seems so perfect right now. You really have to wonder, like, who had that inspiration, So, all right, John, pleasure to see you. We'll see you again soon, I hope. Have a great night.
You too. Thank you.
All right, cheers. Holly, any parting shots to give you the final word here before the credits?
No, I think I went through all my notes.
You got it?
Yeah.
Did you have all the notes this time? Because
I had so many notes, but I think we touched on them on most of them.
Okay, very good. Cool. I look forward to watching you and Norman next week, and I'll be back the week after. Until then, Mission Log Live is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment, executive producer Rod Roddenberry. Technical production on Mission Log Live is by the inevitable Earl Green. Be sure to visit podcast.roddenberry.com for the latest from the Roddenberry Podcast Network. If you would like to support Mission Log directly, give us a look at patreon.com/missionlog, accessories by cufflinksinc.com. Thanks to everyone who joined us live or later. Stay safe, stay healthy. We look forward to talking with you next week.